study. Om Vasudeva Sutam Devam
Kamsano Mardanam
Devaki
Devaki
Paramanandam
Paramanandam
Krishnam Vande
Vande
Jagadguru.
Jagadguru.
Please keep all your microphones off, and there will be a question and answer session. That time you may turn your microphones on. Now for the present, please mute them. So friends, welcome to the 218th webinar under the banner of FOI Forum, where FOI stands for the flame of who am I. In a sense, the topic of this webinar is very close to what FOI Forum stands for. As I already told you, the expansion of the word FOI, which is an acronym, it has the flame of who am I. In our spiritual ignorance, we tend to imagine we are just this body with some senses, with some emotional mind. Therefore, we go out of our way to make this body comfortable, and somehow we want to have sweet, happy emotions. But if somebody reads a printed page, reads it again and again, but fails to notice the paper on which some matter is printed, and even denies that there is any paper at all. If somebody says, there is no paper in this world, all that we have is these letters, how foolish it would be. Our ancestors had gone deep into human consciousness, and in ways that baffle even today's science and technology, they had discovered truths which are getting confirmed in modern times. I must tell you about a certain research that went on. In fact, something like more than 50 years. Can you believe? The University of Virginia in America has been conducting research on rebirth, on a soul that is distinct from the physical body. There are lots of videos of the work of University of Virginia Department of Psychiatry, and the credit goes to a certain professor. Let me read a couple of lines from one of those videos. The video has a paragraph about what that video is. Does some aspect of our personality survive bodily death? Long ago, a philosophical and theological question, for long this has been a question, philosophical and theological. In the 20th century, this became the subject of scientific research. 50 years ago, now in fact I should say 55 years ago, in 1967, Ian Stevenson, that professor deserves a lot of compliments from us Indians. Ian Stevenson, then chair of University of Virginia's Department of Psychiatry, created a research unit now named the Division of Perceptual Studies. What was its purpose? To study what, if anything, of the human personality survives after death. Dr. Stevenson's own research investigated hundreds of accounts of young children who claimed to recall past lives. Anybody among you who has much interest in this subject of a soul that survives the death of the body and takes another body, which is called rebirth, reincarnation, please Google I-A-N, Stevenson, Stevenson, and put, if you want, University of Virginia. He is no more, but some of his associates and junior people are carrying on this significant work. So, what did they find, and what had Sri Krishna said in the Bhagavad-Gita? Does something survive the bodily death? We go to the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad-Gita, where Sri Krishna says in no uncertain terms, he says, when there is death and when there is birth, what happens is an atma. He calls it jeeva here. So we sometimes refer to it as jeevātmā, because there is God who is paramātmā. We are talking of jeevātmā, who is the soul. Some people object to this word soul. Of late, there has been a controversy, and people like Rajiv Malhotra, or was he Mehrotra, that gentleman who has this Infinity channel on YouTube. He actually led a bunch of people to write a book, non-translatable words in Sanskrit. So the word Atma is also one of the words. This bunch of researchers have been saying, the moment you translate the word Atma to soul, much injustice is done to that Sanskrit word Atma. However, for the present, I shall use the word soul, for to use many Sanskrit words without translating them also causes its own problem. So, in the 7th verse of chapter 15, Sri Krishna makes an astonishing statement. It is a little part of me that is born on the earth as an individual soul. So who and what is an individual soul? It's a little part, ansha. Mama eva anshaha, mama eva anshaha, jeevaloke, jeevabhootah, sanātanah. And this soul, when one body dies, takes all the indriyas, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin, along with manaha, mind, and moves on. I must hasten to clarify, when it is said the soul carries the 5 senses, the 5 organs of action, and the mind, please do not imagine the physical eyes or ears go. We all have seen many cases of death. No ears disappear, no nose disappears. Therefore, indriyani here means sukshma indriyani. Behind the visible ears or ears, visible eyes, visible nose, which can be subjected to surgery, etc., there is an invisible, subtle indriya. Shrotram, Chakshuhu, Sparshanam, Rasanam, Granam. All of them have a stula aspect which is available for surgery or microscopic study. There is a Sukshma Indriya which is not visible to any instrument of modern science. Those Sukshma Indriyas are referred to by Sri Krishna. Then what happens if the soul, the jeevātmā, takes the sense organs and organs of action and the antakarana with it? Where does it go? It is said, shariram yadavapnoti, very next verse, And yacha api utkramati. Utkramana is dying and moving on. This jeevātmā takes all this. And when you say it carries the mind, you must immediately recognize the significance. This mind of ours is a repository of whole lot of impressions, whole lot of sanskaras, whole lot of conditionings, good or bad. And that is how, even in Ian Stevenson's work, where he went and interviewed and documented thousands of cases around the world, not just in India or in the East, in Australia, in Africa, in his own United States, wherever he got to know that some child is talking some strange things. I was so and so, I had a wife and children. Somebody saying, imagine 4-year-old boy saying, I want to meet my wife. 4-year-old boy. Ian Stevenson and his team rushed to that spot, took serious interest in that boy's blabbering. And that is what has been documented in that division of perceptual studies under the Department of Psychiatry in the University of Virginia. Imagine. So Sri Krishna had said thousands of years ago that the soul carries the mind. Grihitva, carrying it. Like you are leaving a friend's house and you have gone to the door. Then you return. Sorry, I left my mobile. You and I, are so attached to our mobile. I wouldn't be surprised if jokes start coming later on. A husband left a friend's place, came back and picked up his mobile, but forgot to take his wife with him. She was looking at him whether he'll say, come, let's go. He didn't say at all. He took the mobile with him. Anyway, I don't want to go into humor much. This topic itself is interesting, I guess. No jokes are necessary to make the topic more interesting or interesting. So, grihitva, then we can say mobilam grihitva sapurushaha punarapi gataha, went again carrying the mobile. Like that, the soul carries, and Lord Krishna, who is an adept in communication, offers very many very interesting metaphors all through the Geetā. And in this 8th verse of chapter 15, the metaphor he gives is, just as wind blowing over a garden carries the fragrance of the flowers in this garden over to another area where it could be some tennis fields, where it could be some parking or walking areas. People are walking there. The garden is half a kilometer away. And they not only enjoy the cool breeze, and they wonder, where is this fragrance coming from? The fragrance is from that garden half a kilometer away. Likewise, friends, you and I are astonished. A 3-year-old girl is able to recite the whole Bhagavad-Gita. Even today there are cases. You get so many WhatsApp videos nowadays of these child prodigies. A 3.5-year-old boy not only listens to his father singing a fairly complicated piece of Hindustani music, and the 3.5-year-old boy repeats the ragas. Some of us in our 60s and 70s don't know any raga. That is the pathetic state of ours. We neither know raga, nor do we have enough viraga. Therefore, neither here nor there. No, sense of music. Where did this 3.5-year-old boy get to follow those ragas? And it is said about Mozart that at the age of 4, he composed some pieces of music which have remained immortal even today. So many little kids have so much knowledge in particular fields, and sanātanah dharma. So does Buddhism, so does Jainism, so does Sikhism. The Eastern religions have always said it is the soul which in its previous life had done enough of labor, had worked hard and learned music or language or Sanskrit or what you call philosophy. That is showing in this little child. So it's not about just remembering where the person had lived in past life, where his house was, who were his wife and children or husband and children. Those things also are brought forward. Grahitva etani sayyati. And Lord Krishna doesn't want to leave any room for doubt or ambiguity. When he said earlier Indriyani, he meant the 9th verse says, Shrotram chakshuhu sparshanancha rasanam ghranameva. The 5 sense organs, ears, eyes, touch, that is the skin, then the tongue, and then the nose. Adhishtaya, manaschayam, carries the mind also, the subtle ones. Now, both serious and humorous is a question that arises in this matter of dying and moving on. Some people wonder, if we make some organ donation, will we be born in next life as blind because we gave our eyes? We already clarified. What you donate is anyhow left behind. It is not taken away by the soul. Therefore, even if you give the entire body and everything in it, like a friend of mine in California did, I had met him, I think, a month before he died. Then I was traveling to other parts of North America. Then I got the news, our very good friend, he's no more. Then we also came to know that this friend of ours had written in an official document, or maybe he had said to his wife, my body entirely has to be given as donation for medical research. So I guess Stanford University or one of them promptly sent their vehicle and took the body away. I can assure you that person would have gained a lot of punya and not lost anything. For wherever he is born now, as he or she might be born as a very noble or very able lady in this life. She will have all the senses in place, all the organs of action in place, all the mana, buddhi, etc. in place. Nothing will be lost. Because one last time, what is left behind and generally burnt or buried, once in a while given as donation, is the grosser part. And Lord Krishna doesn't talk about those grosser parts being carried on. And then Sri Krishna praises people with their far-reaching insight, far-reaching vision, who see the soul in every personality, no matter in what condition they are. People are sick or fit. People are young or old. People are with some gender, some description. Doesn't matter. Utkramantam stitam vapi gunjanam va gunanvitam pashyanti jnana chakshushaha. Those with the eyes of wisdom see you dancing, singing and enjoying. Another day they see you on a sick bed in a hospital with your leg at 45-degree angle and you are half conscious. Jnana chakshusha, those with spiritual wisdom, those who see with the eyes of spiritual wisdom, whether you are running a 100 meters race or in hospital with your leg at 45-degree angle, they see you primarily as the Atma, that Avinashi Atma. Jnana chakshushaha pashyanti, says the 10th verse, and in the same verse, the 3rd pada says, Vimudaha nanu pashyanti. Deluded people are unable to see the soul. They see only the body. There are many questions that arise in the context of this webinar's topic. What is an individual soul? What is a jeevātmā? We would say the jeevātmā is between the two extremes. It's not the gross body that dies, is cremated or buried. It's not the pure, uncontaminated, utterly changeless consciousness, which is ever free, which one in a million realize. This jeevātmā, this individualness to some extent, and to a certain extent, it has the qualities of anātmā, body, mind, etc. Therefore, in Vedanta works, you get this interesting metaphor. An iron ball heated and taken to red heat. The red hot iron ball. Tapta ayapindam. Ayaha of Sanskrit is iron of English. Tapta ayapindavan matam. As this Atmabodha, etc. say that. An iron ball taken to red heat, kept in a room, for anybody who walks into the room would look like a ball of fire. So it has the qualities of fire, but the spherical shape of it is the quality of the iron ball. So there is a bit of iron ball, a bit of fire, both coming together to make it a red hot iron ball. The jeevātmā is like that. It's conscious, it knows, it is full of life. And if it is so, it should be ever free. No, because it is somehow mixed with the attributes of mind and body. The jeevātmā has sorrow, has fear, has anxiety, has regrets, etc. And thoughts of, why am I short when all others are taller? Why am I only up to 10th grade when in my friend circle did PhD? All this comparison, competition, and the resulting heartburn belong to the jeevātmā. The mere body doesn't say anything. The pure consciousness at the other extreme doesn't say anything. But this entity which takes a little from there and a little from here is the jeevātmā. What is its relation to the Supreme Soul? The second question. We put it in the synopsis also that went to all of you. Shri Krishna answers it. Mama eva anshaha. Ramanujacharya took this as a very, very important seminal statement from the Bhagavad-Gita and said, the truth is neither dvaita, where God and man means woman also, are poles apart, nor the truth is advaita, where God and jiva are one only. Ramanujacharya took this statement, Mama eva anshaha jeevabhootah. Literally he took it and said, God is the whole and every jiva is a part. Ansha means a part. Adi Shankara first interpret this. He says, just as space in a pot is from an angle of view, part of the total space, but really you move the pot up, back and forth, up and down, break the pot, put another pot there. all that makes no difference to the space in the pot. Really speaking, the pot is in space. When your eyes are on space, pure space, it is ever undivided. Bringing a pot does not slide or does not cause divisions in space. So Adi Shankara says, despite the word ansha, it is anshaha iva. Actually, the jeevātmā, if you scratch the surface and go deeper and deeper, is the paramātmā only. Therefore, it is advaita. Let's not go into much discussion on dvaita, advaita, vishishtadvaita. It should suffice to say at this moment that the 15th chapter and 7th verse, the 7th verse says, the jiva, individual soul, is a tiny part of God, that is paramātmā. A third question is, when one dies, what is carried forward? The pranas, the mind. By mind we mean mana, buddhi, chitta, ahankara, and 5 jnanendriyas, 5 karmendriyas. So if you add them up, 5 jnanendriyas, 5 karmendriyas, 5 pranas, that itself is 15. Then if you just take mana buddhi as representative of all the 4, then 17. These saptadasha items constitute the jeevātmā, but mind you, a fan or an electric iron, a refrigerator, etc., all of them are of no use unless electricity flows through them. So jeevātmā is a zero if pure consciousness were not to be reflected in it. Therefore, we would say what the jeevātmā, the conditioned consciousness, carries forward is the set of five sense organs, 5 organs of action, 5 pranas, mind and intellect. What is left behind? The gross body, which is now just worth cremating or worth burying. What is the best way to ensure a better future life? The soul is on a journey. In its journey, at the end of one life, is there some wisdom about ensuring a good, spiritual, noble life in the next birth? Chapter 6 also goes into it, but it is in chapter 8 that it is said, Arjuna asks a question, Prayana kāle khatam jneyosi niyatātmabihi. Shri Krishna says, at the time of death, if you think of me lovingly, single-pointedly, you come to me. Yam yam bhavam smaran muktva kalevaram, and so on. In chapter 8, which was our text in the 6-day camp that concluded yesterday in Lonavala near Pune, Sri Krishna goes into the issue of how one must desirably behave during death, and talks about abhyasa. Abhyasa yoga yuktena chetasa nanyagamina paramam purusham divyam pratiparthanu chintayan. If you think about that paramātmā, you will reach paramātmā himself. And then if you think of anything else, your next birth would be in alignment with what you thought of. Towards the end of your life, you thought of wonderful sports equipment that have come, wonderful cricket bats, tennis rackets, football, volleyball, this, and all kinds of. Next life, you will be born into a family who for generations have been dealing with sports goods. And you perhaps will have a wonderful sports shop or a chain of sports shop, whatever. But the field where you will be born is something to do with the sports equipment or sports goods. So what is the best way? The most important verse of chapter 8 was Tasmat sarveshu kāleshu māmanusmara yudhyacha. Māmanusmara, try to remember God all the time. In recent times, there have been many saints who have said in uncompromising way that in Kali Yuga, the best way to remember God is to repeat His name. Rama, 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 go on and on. There are many ashrams where, if not 24 hours, from morning 6 a.m. to evening 6 p.m., by rotation, in a certain specific room, people recite Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Somewhere else it could be Om Namah Shivaya, Akhanda Japa. If you and I repeat a mantra, God's name, and put a little bit love, little bit understanding also into it, so much the better. Nama Japa is a wonderful way to drive away negative thoughts, vulgar ideas, crazy fancies, unnecessary regrets. All of them will be put aside. You do Nama Japa. Therefore, someone even wrote a bhajan. Nama is greater than Rama. Nama is bigger than Rama. There is some bhajan like that. Because Nama, the name. Manusmara means remember God. Lift your mind to a certain expanse. Don't be stuck with some petty things. Don't be brooding on things that anyhow have limited value. Think big and connect yourself to God. Second part of Sri Krishna's advice is Yudhyacha. Though literally it means fight, which was okay for Arjuna, who was on the battlefield. Yudhya, by context, means for you and me, kartavyam kuru, swadharmam achara. Be clear what your skills are and use your skills for the benefit of others. Offer it to God. Offer it to people who are an expression of God. Therefore, do karma and do deva smarana, ma manusmara and swadharmam achara. Therefore, Sri Ramakrishna, the celebrated guru of the great Vedantin Vivekananda, had advised his disciples, when one of your hands is at work, hold God with the second. When that work is over, hold God with both your hands. Thus, friends, that question also is answered by Sri Krishna. And if you make a sincere study, quality is more important than quantity. Rather than reading Bhagavad-Gita half asleep for half an hour to 1 hour, read 10 minutes, just a little of Geetā, and take a look at what the teaching is, how it can apply to your life. You will find that you will get the larger picture of life. You are a transmigrating soul. It is not a case of the body having a soul, rather it is a soul. You are a soul which presently has this body. After some years, you may have another body. The body is born, grows, gets old, dies. Dehinosmin yatha dehe kaumaram yavvanam jara tatha dehantara praptihi dhirastatra na muhyati. Shri Krishna says in the second chapter. If you ask me, Where do we get insights into the nature of the soul in Bhagavad-Gita? I will take a full minute to tell you which chapters they are. In chapters 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. These are the chapters in which you get insights into the soul, what it is, how it will move on. Yes, all the 17 chapters, because the first chapter is Arjuna's submission of his own personal sorrow. First chapter is Arjuna Vishada Yoga. The next 17 chapters are Shri Krishna's prasada to Arjuna. Even in the 14th chapter, if you died with the sattva being dominant in your mind, you will be born in noble families, amidst noble families. If you are born with rajas dominating your antakarana, so the language of sattva, rajas, and tamas is used, throwing some light on the death and the further movement. So everywhere, even 16th chapter, Daivasura Sampad Vibhaga Yoga, virtuous people have been praised, and those who are not giving up their bad habits, those who remain wicked, are warned. Lord Krishna goes into quite a harsh language. In chapter 16, he says, I put such wicked souls again and again into Naraka, hell. So, once there is a talk of going to heaven, going to hell, 9th chapter talks about soul going to Swarga, but after their punya is exhausted, comes back. So, in numerous ways, pretty much all the chapters help us understand that we are something far vaster than this tiny physical body. Body is a passing show, whereas this soul is an endless show. Only when it gets enlightened, that whole story is over. Enlightenment is absolute freedom. Therefore, friends, I encourage you to study the Geetā, and very sincerely, not for showing off your knowledge and not allowing a big gap between your knowledge and your actual daily life. Bridge the gap between vichara and achara, then the benefit that you will receive is enormous. Read the Geetā, and I began referring to Ian Stevenson's work in University of Virginia. Whether it is Ian Stevenson or other authors, there are many who have talked about the soul. In recent times, even there was Anita Moorjani, who was declared dead or almost dead, and there was no hope among doctors to revive her. But in a miracle, she came back to life. Anita Moorjani has been going around telling her story of out-of-body experience, near-death experience, etc. And Edgar Casey in USA wrote extensively about a soul that goes through lives. He had certain ability to go into trance. Then he would know the past life of the person sitting next or in front of him. He would cure diseases based on past life reading. In your past life, you did this, therefore you have this ailment. Do such and such good deeds. Your ailment will disappear. Edgar Case, or they call him Edgar Casey. Amazing work about a century ago. Brian Weiss wrote that famous book, Many Lives, Many Masters, a bestseller for decades. Brian Weiss, a psychiatrist from Florida. So, evidence and material in support of a jeevātmā, a soul that has a much longer journey than the physical body's story, is available everywhere. Read them a little, but connect them all to your self-inquiry, your Brahma Vidya. For it's important not to get lost in all these very interesting details of Janma, Punarjanma, etc. And then suppose you neither develop devotion to God nor you do Atma Chintana, I'm afraid all that knowledge will bind you more than ever before. We salute Sri Krishna again. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hari Om. So please do not hesitate to ask questions. Now you may unmute your microphone, especially when you are asking a question. Yes. Welcome, Lakshmi. We have Lakshmi, we have Jaya Lakshmi. How many Lakshmis are there? Let me see. Okay.
Hari Om, Swāmiji.
Hari Om. Yeah. Okay. Your question, Lakshmi, or
Yes,
yeah,
yes, Swāmiji.
muted. Please go ahead. Go ahead.
I have 2-3 questions. It might sound a little crude considering my limited knowledge. But one question is that we've had great kings like Harish Chandra as well. But when we are told that we are supposed to be taking names of Krishna, Rama, Shiva, why is it that we take their name in specific? We can take names of even like great kings, other great kings. So why is it that there is so much of an importance attached to only taking names of taking such names at the time of dying or like throughout the course of our life?
Well, in principle, if we lovingly remember Harish Chandra, who was so truthful, it will do immense benefit to us. It will bring, therefore, anyone could take that up. I do not know about time of death, but if you look around, in spite of all sorts of and whole lot of religious propaganda, if you look around, you see many people have not bothered much about Rama, Krishna or Shiva. They have shaped or they have designed their life around some human being. Take for example, the Gandhians. Gandhians, in so many ashrams, so many places, have been so touched by Mahatma Gandhi. They change their dress, they change their lifestyle, they change their food habits. They live in such ways, and so constantly they take Mahatma Gandhi's example. Likewise, in the world, there are people who sometimes may do much publicity about it. Somebody is so inspired by her grandmother, and she, especially as she gets older, she tries to do a lot of things just as her grandmother did. Therefore, what you say or what you said, he has been already done. Though we don't have many instances of someone remembering Gandhi or grandmother at the time of death, perhaps they do. If all life one has been adoring some particular personality. I have met people, Banaras, I met one person who is a PhD in physics. He adores a certain professor who 40 years ago guided him in his PhD. So his PhD guide 40 years ago continues to be as a role model. So in life, a lot of people shape their life going around some role model, which is also good, because broadly speaking, Spirituality advises us to have noble thoughts. And to have noble thoughts, we may take the support of some human being who means a lot to us, or a God figure. But before I conclude my answer, the Shastras advise us to remember God, because God stands for something like infinity. He includes everything. Our knowledge, our understanding of God may be limited, but as our understanding of God increases, Gandhi and some PhD guide, some excellent businessman, some excellent political leader whom might inspire us, all of it is included. God is, technically speaking, the superset of all that is good in the world. A good sportsman, a good cinema star, a good athlete, already I said, a good scientist, a good mother, a good father, all are included in God. In Vibhuti Yoga, that's what Shri Krishna says. Wherever you see something inspiring, something wonderful, know it to be a part of me. Yad yad vibhuti mat sattvam Sri madurjitameva va tattadeva amsham me avagacha. It's all my ansha. So if we do proper spiritual study, we will be, even when you think of Harishchandra, we say, wow, God made this Harishchandra such a noble person. I pray God to make me also a Satyanishta. God, I have lived a life of light. Please now take me and make me a Harishchandra. So God is a summation of Harishchandra and Gandhi and all excellent people in various fields of life. Good question. Thank you.
Thank you, Swami. And
Swamiji,
just one last question. Swamiji, also, is it like now that we've got this physical body and we also come across different people? So there are there are so many humans, like if we consider the whole human population, it's that in our life, our limited life, we come in contact with only certain people. So is it a matter of chance, or is this also associated with your previous life?
Absolutely. It's all something to do with previous life. Because, though it may look like a tall claim, we must put it across, put it against the understanding that God is omniscient. God is all-knowing. So just like once you and I study some technology, science, etc., we are not at all surprised if somebody speaking to us from Tokyo is so clear to us in our mobile, clearer than a neighbor talking to us. We are not surprised. And somebody asks, how is that possible? Yes, science and technology, computer science and electronics, all of them joined hands. And yes, my aunt is in Tokyo. I am here in Pune, but I am hearing her, I am seeing her in video so clearly. Just as all that is possible, the supreme intelligence of God, one definition of God is He is supreme intelligence. People without personifying Him as Rama or Krishna, they say supreme intelligence is God. So the supreme intelligence has set in motion how reincarnation takes place. Therefore, we have reason to believe that everybody whom we meet, even for 2 minutes in our life, was destined to meet us. We were destined to meet them. We are all the time working out our karma. Give and take, give and take. We owe somebody something in last life, and we suddenly have a pickpocket in a local train, taking 10,000 rupees from our pocket. Then come home and you discover, oh my God, I was carrying an envelope with 10,000 cash, disappeared. Then one possibility is in last life, you had taken 10,000 from him or her, did not return it. So this is how, sometimes it looks very exaggerated, but that's okay, everything looks exaggerated when You are not in that field. So, but it all has wonderful logic. Why not?
Okay.
In fact, we people meet, let's say, in a gathering Saturday evening. Somebody who has come to the gathering is 20 meters away. You are taking your soft drink to your lips, and meanwhile, he or she has picked up. And you see each other. You just smile and even wave. You don't do that unless you know that person. You may not do that to see somebody standing next to you.
Yeah.
See the karma. That person and you were classmates 2 years ago. So you just, hey, happy to see you are also here. Yes. So just as with limited intelligence, we are able to wave at people 20 meters away. The supreme intelligence of God makes you and I meet. It's all very amazing. So all I can say is we have to have Shraddha. Did somebody else raise a question?
Thank you so much.
I have a question, Swamiji.
Anita, right?
Hear me? Yes, yes.
Go ahead, Anita.
So my question is like, when the soul leaves the body, it carries the impressions with it. So when we see mixed personalities in people, is it the soul carrying the impressions from different births, or can the two souls, because both souls belong to a higher consciousness, do they intermix, like one soul carrying something other? Is there a possibility, or is there still identity of the soul, one soul moving?
Generally, we never talk of two souls entering the same body. But since you asked, and going by the general spirit of the Adhyatma Vidya, the spiritual science, everything is possible. Everything is possible. You know, God can make two souls operate through a single body. Sometimes this is showing that some other time that is showing, expressing itself. But generally we don't have examples of that in the scripture. So hardly any preacher, hardly any Swamiji may talk of that possibility. But there is no reason why that should not happen. You know, like in social systems, Draupadi had 5 husbands, and Muslims in many countries have 4 wives each. Though general norm is 1 man and 1 woman are husband and wife. So many countries join hands. UAE, I guess 7 countries come together, and United Arab Emirates. USSR was there. USA is 50 states. Right? So individuals, nations, languages, you name it, everywhere, several joining or one splitting into many are seen. In technology also, I have an electronics background. Decades ago when I studied and taught, we used to talk about multiple processors in a single system, in a computer scenario, or one acting, doing several roles. So fault-tolerant, redundant systems. Just as a table can stand on 3 legs, but you have 1 more leg, that is in a way redundant. But suppose 1 leg breaks of a table, the other 3 will hold it. So 1 extra leg is always good. So in those lines, in science, in technology, in organization structures, all kinds of possibilities exist. So why not? 2 souls could inhabit a body. But we don't have references of that kind in scriptures. We don't know so far any cases of that kind. But in principle, it's possible. God can do anything. And he has advanced intelligence to avoid conflict between the two. A harmonious functioning of 3 souls in a single body. This is all a matter of intelligence. Very nice. You asked the out-of-box question.
Thank you.
Who next?
Swamiji, I have a question. It's not
Yes,
even a question
Jyoti Verma. Yeah.
Okay, what are the 5 pranas? Can you please? Maybe I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The 5 pranas you meant.
Yeah. Prana, apana, vyana, udana, and samana.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So in all the Prakarana Granthas, Viveka Chudamani and Tattva Bodha, Atma Bodha, and many other Vedanta Sara, all of them are rooted in some Upanishad. Some Upanishad has talked about functions of these. So prana is for breathing, inhaling, exhaling, etc. Apana is excretion, etc. Vyana is distribution. Samana is digestion. Udana is creative thinking, as well as at the end of life, it is Udana which collects the other 4 pranas and indriyas and 10 indriyas and mind, etc. It is kind of saying to all of them, come, let's go, time is up. It gathers. Udana is said to be the leader of the whole gang when the exit from a body takes place. These have been given in the scriptures. So Pancha Pranas are the commonly defined ones. They are the vital energies. Some are visible, some are invisible. Breathing is visible, you and I. Visible meaning perceive. I know I am breathing in. I know I am breathing out. But I have no clue what samana is doing at present. I just know the digestion is going on. I had dinner an hour ago and digestion is going on. But I don't have a report on what is the stage, etc. Right. So they are the 5 pranas.
5 pranas. Thank you, Swamiji.
Swamiji, I have a question.
Oh yeah, you had written. Let me see your text box. I noticed, but then I got distracted. Here, let me read your question. You wrote quite some time back. For that, I will expand this. Yes, Sri Rangabijur. What happens to the soul of animals? Are they destined to be reborn as animals only? No, not at all. They could be born as a human being very soon after the present life, or depending on the karma, they could have another 2 or 3 animal lives also. It is like jail terms. The soul in an animal is as noble as a soul in any human being. But like jail term, somebody is in jail for a certain particular wrong he did. That doesn't mean he is inferior. Once he comes out, he could be a great asset to the society. Therefore, the soul of animals, in principle, is like any other soul, but doing a term, serving a jail term. Why am I comparing it with jail? Just as in a jail, the inmate has a lot of constraints. First of all, the inmate cannot say, I'm going to the restaurant and say a movie and come back in the town. He is confined in the jail premises. Likewise, the animals, even if they have greatest nobility in them, during that period of being in an animal body, they have the constraints of, they go largely by instincts. They have very rudimentary amount of creative thinking, a very limited amount of ability to learn, etc. Exceptionally, some animals learn languages, some animals, chimpanzees, etc., learn even mathematics to some extent. Those are generally exceptions. By and large, animals are confined, like the inmates of a jail are confined. But once that karma is exhausted, it is like a punishment analogy. We don't have to look down at it. It's like a certain result of karma, puts them in that confinement for a certain time. Once that karma is exhausted, the soul may be born as a human being in the very next life too. Then we have
Swamiji, I have one question on the chat.
Yeah, is Lata Sonpal talking? I see one question by Lata Sonpal. Did you hear?
Rekha Ramani, Swami.
Oh, Rekha Ramani. Did you also put a question on the chat box?
Yes. Yes,
Okay, I'm going,
Swamiji.
then I'm going there. Afterwards, I'll come to Lata Sonpal. So here is Rekha Ramani, Hari Om. After that, yeah. Would my prayers for someone else who does have faith in God but does not delve in God on a daily basis help that person in his or her difficult times? Even though I know that this person is finding it difficult to spend even a minute on the reflection of God on a day-to-day basis. Yeah, definitely it will help. Prayers help oneself, prayers help others. Prayers or ashirvada, that is blessings that you give to anybody, definitely helps. And purer you are, the greater is the capacity of your prayers and blessings. How involved you are, how sincere or all with how much with heart you say, it makes a difference. This has been proved by many instances, recorded instances, etc.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Yeah, on our level, we pray or we give blessings, but saints and sages have much higher power. They can even with a glance bless somebody.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Welcome, welcome. So, Lata Sonpal here. Some books by Dr. Ian Stevenson, 20 cases suggestive of reincarnation. What a wonderful title. That title itself would make us grab it. 20 cases suggestive of reincarnation. Then there is a book by Dr. Ian Stevenson, The Evidence of Survival from Claimed Memories of Former Incarnations. Then Brian Weiss' book I referred to, Many Lives, Many Masters, which I had the chance to read in its entirety long back in 97 or so. Very few books I've read cover to cover, I've read lots of books, just few pages. But Many Lives, Many Masters is one book I read completely. Same Soul, Many Bodies by Dr. Brian Weiss. Children Who Remember Previous Life and Children and Biology. So in this part, Lataji has given, and it's to everyone, so you can see the chat box and copy it and paste it on a maybe Word file. Dying to be Me is Anita Murjani. Thank you, Lataji. She has mentioned a few more also. Every participant can take a look at that list of titles. Then, okay, Maya Musta, Pankaj Bar, Vaswati Aji. Okay, Hari Om, compliments and so on. Ramchandran Pillai, missed Lonavala retreat. Hope best of luck next time. Yeah, good you remind me. Starting on June 10, this year, June 10 to June 16, we have a camp coming up in Bangalore in a nice 10-acre campus called Suvarnamukhi Sanskriti Dhama. So expect us to send you details within a month or so. So Ramchandran ji can try to join there. Then I come to Shakti Kumar, my good friend in Varanasi. Krishna says, Prayana kāle manasācalena bhaktya yukto yoga balena chaiva. A still mind and devotion are juxtaposed here. What might Krishna mean here? Yeah. Does a still mind intrinsically have the quality of love? Yeah, all of it is meant. So if you say juxtaposition of still mind and devotion, the stillness refers only to absence of irrelevant thoughts, absence of, thoughts that weaken us, etc. The still mind is not to be taken literally as an utterly quiet mind with no image whatsoever. In Bhakti Marga, if somebody has an image of Shri Krishna, for example, and does not think about money matters or some pleasure prospect, etc., it is achala only. It is only in Nirguna, Nirakara and some atheistic philosophies that they highlight, even perhaps some in Buddhist literature, achala would mean absolutely no image. But Sanātanah Dharma has made room for being achala, unmoving, and yet with an exceptional margin for thoughts of God, about God, and the belief is lastly to have a figure of Krishna in your eyes, in your mental eyes, is no burden at all, doesn't tax you.
Hari Om Swamiji, my question is not answered.
Okay, this is,
Ashwini Swamiji.
all right, I think I saw your name somewhere. Oh, here, right here, yeah. Plants are considered as living ones as they are breathing. Is there any chance a human can take rebirth as a plant or vice versa? Yes, it is possible, but it very rarely happens. 99.99% of the cases, a human being is born again as a human being. But in a very rare case, in Puranas, a rishi curses somebody to become even a stone. A rishi curses somebody to be a ashwatha tree. So he becomes an ashwatha tree. And it is rishi and this person's karma also, whether during existence as a tree, there is some thinking, some memory, some remembrance of life, previous life, that's up to their karma. As you know, Jadabharata, even when he had to be in the deer's body, was blessed by powers that be to remember his past life. I became a deer because of my attachment to a deer. He was able to remember. So, tree is possible and both ways. What was tree today could be a human being again tomorrow. That's possible. So, depends on the nature of karma. Strange karmas. Just as a multi-billionaire, because of some reason, could be dying on roadside in a little village in some developing country. He went there for something, then something happened, then he found himself. People will say, oh, how did this multi-billionaire die on a roadside with nobody to give him a glass of water? Anything can happen. Prisha from Bombay. Animals are generally ferocious and they kill to survive. So how do their karma expand to reach human birth? See, for them to kill is part of their livelihood. To remain alive, they have to do it. So the theory is, if something is unavoidable, if something has been a part of your nature of that particular body, no bad karma accrues to you. There is hardly any choice. There is hardly any intentional act there. They are just driven to do it. So it is like a jail term. So in a jail, a prisoner is commanded and ordered by authorities to do certain work. Sometimes that work could be a little violent also. So I don't know. In some jail, let us say, the prisoners are asked to kill some chicken and prepare it, some meat preparation. They just do it, though they might not want to do it, but they are prisoners. They have no choice. Therefore, they expand not because of what they did as the animal. They come to human birth because while they this is important, while they exhausted some bad karma to spend their life as an animal, it is a good karma which was in another account that brings to them human life. They are all processed packet by packet. I have a little packet of bad karma that makes me to be born as an animal. I have 10 packets of noble karma over here. After this bad packet is exhausted, one of the good packets is picked up. And to process it would involve giving me a human birth. So the human birth that the animal gets after some time is not the result of good and bad that it did during the animal life. Hope this makes the matter clearer. With that, I guess all questions are answered. So wonderful. I am very delighted and encouraged by the interest shown by all of you on this topic. Looks like sometimes rather than high Vedanta topics, certain topics like this are on human values. I found the same when I took Viduraniti. A lot of interest was generated. I was myself surprised. Meanwhile, I think there is one comment or question. Dr. Sukumar from Canada. Transmigration of soul need not be purely linear. It can be non-linear. I think Yoga Vasishtam gives indications to infinite possibilities in life and afterlife. Hari Om. Yes. Yeah. The whole matter need not be linear. It may be non-linear. Just day before, I was talking to some participants in the camp at Lonavala, and this issue came up. And I referred to a dialogue in Talks with Ramana Maharshi, where I'll tell you in a very simple way. Somebody died in 2020, and 2021 they discovered a child, who remembers the life of this person who died in 2020. And pretty much it was found out that this child is a reincarnation of the person who died in 2020. So all of you would think, oh, if this child remembers the person's and all details of his life, and that person died in 2020, maybe immediately after that, this child must have been born. This child can be 1 year old. Now comes the very, very puzzling dimension. The child that is remembering in all fine detail the life of the man who died in 2020 is already 7 year old. That means the child, was born a couple of years before even that person died. That's where non-linearity comes. If everything is put in a line, 2020 A dies, and maybe after 2 months B is born. B is the reincarnation. B remembers the life of A. But here is the funny thing. 2020 A dies. 2016 itself B is born, and B remembers the life of A. That means between 2016 and 2020, both A, the previous life, and the reincarnation B have coexisted. This question was put to Ramana Maharshi. This 2020 and 21, I put those figures to illustrate. So Maharshi, without batting an eyelid, said, he didn't use, I think, the word non-linear, but he said, why not? You people think only in terms of your time axis. There are many time axes. So time is not one simple single line, multiple time, time zones, time axis, and so on. So yeah, this is something like a question asked by Anita Naik also, whether two souls can inhabit a single body. In a way, it's a little out of box, it's a little unusual, but all these possibilities do exist. That's where, Sanatana Dharma is so accommodative of numerous possibilities, not without rhyme and reason. They have certain advanced reason. Ordinary reason permits certain possibilities, and extraordinary reasoning permits multiple possibilities. Okay. Thank you. And we conclude here. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Hari Om Vibhaji.
Hari Om.
I missed the camp. Sorry. I was thinking of the camp so much.